I would like to welcome you to the course and congratulate you on taking a step to become a better Qt graphical user interface developer. Qt is a cross-platform application development framework. You can use it to build graphical user interfaces that run natively on Windows, Mac, Linux. They can even run on mobile devices like Android and iOS, or even embedded devices. Qt is special in that you will have to write your code once, and all you have to do to make the code run on another platform is to recompile it, targeting that platform there. For example, if I have written my code on a Windows machine and I have a binary running on Windows, all I have to do to get a binary running on Linux is recompile my code on a Linux machine, and I will get a binary that can run on Linux. And this is really cool. So the idea is that you write your code once and you recompile your code for any target of interest, and you will end up with a native binary that can run directly on your operating system of interest. And that's really cool. Okay, here I am on the Wikipedia page for Qt. You can search this in Google and you will end up here. They give you introductory information on the Qt framework. For example, it was initially developed by Eric and Harvard, as you see here. It can run on a lot of platforms. We see Android, iOS, Linux, Windows, and all kinds of crazy things really. And if you go down, what I want you to see is the list of applications that are written in Qt to kind of give you an idea of what you can do if you learn Qt properly. You see, we have a bunch of Adobe applications here. They are using Qt. You see Autodesk Maya, which is a 3D design application. If you go down, you will find something like Krita, which is a design application, like Photoshop really, but it is open source. You go down, you find OBS, which is what I am currently using recording this video right now. That's really cool. And if you keep going down, you will find a bunch of applications that are really interesting. For example, you see VLC Media Player here. It is written in Qt. And you can do these things if you learn Qt properly. That's the idea I want to convey here. Let's go down and see some organizations that are using Qt. So this is going to give you an idea of how powerful Qt is, because these companies rely on Qt to write their applications. You can see AMD, you can see Blizzard, you can see Daimler, a car manufacturer, you can see Siemens, you can see Samsung, you can see Tesla. Qt is a really great framework and you can do a lot of things with it. And hopefully now you have an idea of what you can do with it, or what kind of people are using Qt in industry. Now, I have said that Qt is a cross-platform application development framework, and I have been emphasizing the graphical user interface side of it. Qt provides two APIs, if I can say it like that, to design graphical user interfaces. You can either use QtWidgets to design applications that run on desktop, think things like Windows, Mac, and Linux, and you can use the QML API to design fluid and dynamic graphical user interfaces that are designed to look well on mobile devices and embedded. In this course, we will be focusing on QtWidgets, writing applications that run on Windows, Mac, and Linux. If you are interested in QML, you may check out some other courses that I have on QML. And it is possible to extend your user interfaces with a backend that is done in C++. So for example, if a user clicks on a button, you might want to do something, and it is possible to do that background task using the C++ programming language. And in this course, we will be mainly using QtWidgets with C++. But it is also possible to do your logic in Python. Again, if you have a button on your user interface and somebody clicks on the button, it is possible to respond to that button being clicked using the Python programming language. C++ and Python are the languages that are officially supported by the Qt company, but it is possible to use other bindings. If you search for Qt bindings, you're going to see that there are a lot of ways you can write Qt applications using other programming languages like Go, Rust, or any other programming language really. All you have to do is search in your favorite search engine. What we are going to do in this course again is use QtWidgets to design graphical user interfaces that run on desktop platforms, and we will be using the C++ programming language here. I want you to make this super clear. Now, if you want a practical example of some of the applications that are done in Qt, here is OBS Studio, which is what I am currently using recording this video here. You can see that it works on Windows, Mac, and Linux, and this is really cool. Another good example is OpenToons, which is a 2D animation piece of software, and it is written in Qt, and you can see that it is pretty complex, and you can achieve something like this using Qt. Now, I have been saying that Qt is for designing graphical user interfaces, but I don't want you to get the wrong idea that Qt is just for graphical user interfaces. You can do much more with Qt. And good examples are networking, threading, databases. There are tons of other utilities you can use to do a lot of things with Qt. And to kind of give you an idea, here I am on the Qt website in the documentation, and I am looking at all the modules that the Qt framework offers. If you go down, you're going to find that. If you go down, you will find the Qt essential modules. And these are things you find in most applications. You can read on this if you want here. You see we have Qt Core, we have Qt GUI, and these are things you're mostly going to be using if you do graphical user interface applications. But if you don't need the graphical user interface, you can use Qt Core to do all kinds of crazy things. And to have an idea, you can click on Qt Core here to see what is inside. I am not going to do that here. The idea I want you to have is what kind of things you can do with Qt. For example, you see you can do networking. There are a bunch of things about QtQuick. These are QML things you can do with Qt. You can see there is quite a lot. If you go down, you can see that we can do testing using Qt, and you can see that you can do all kinds of crazy things. For example, Qt concurrent here can be used to do threading. You can see that right here, and you can really do a lot with Qt. Qt is not just about graphical user interfaces. That's the idea I am trying to drive home here. Now that we know a bit about Qt, let's talk about the course here. This course is designed to be a starting point for people who want to design graphical user interfaces. For example, you have finished your initial course on C++ and you want to design graphical user interfaces. This course is going to be perfect for you. Another area where this course is going to be useful is if you are experienced in other programming languages and you want to use C++ to design graphical user interfaces. This course is going to be perfect for you. We're going to give you a bunch of examples, and you will really have a good idea on what you can do with Qt, and you will be ready to start building your own applications using the infrastructure that Qt provides. Now, if you are interested in designing applications that run on mobile and embedded, I still think this course is a good starting point for you because you will learn the facilities that Qt offers. And when you get to learn about QML, it will be about using another language to do the same things you really did with QtWidgets. So I would still recommend to start with this course and then take on QML. You're going to be understanding things in a much better way. The requirements for the course are not really that hard. All you need is a basic understanding of object-oriented programming in C++. So if you know what a class is, if you know about inheritance, if you know a bit about polymorphism and virtual functions, you're probably going to be fine with the course. The main point I am looking for in you is the strong drive and willingness to learn. So if you follow along, do what I do, type the code and really try to modify it to suit your own needs, you are going to be a competent Qt C++ GUI developer by the time you are done with the course here. Now, one thing I want to talk about before we close off this lecture is that we have a crash course on C++. This is not meant to be an introduction to C++. If you don't know C++, this is not going to give you much, but this is meant to show you how things are done in C++ if you are coming from other programming languages. But if you are willing to learn as you go, for example, if you find something you don't know, you are willing to search in Google or whatever, or even you can even ask me, I think you are perfectly going to be fine with the course. So the idea is that don't look at this crash course and think that this is going to give you everything you need to know about C++. This is just meant to show you how things are done with C++ and Qt and get you going with using Qt Creator to design graphical user interface applications with Qt. Okay, this is really all I had to share in this lecture. I hope you found it interesting. We are going to head over in the next lecture and show you some of the cool applications you'll get to build in the course here and get you excited a little more. In this lecture, I want you to get excited about the course, and I am going to show you some of the applications you'll get to build as you go through the course here. In the crash course on C++, we will build a number guessing game, which is going to be a console application. You can see it running here. It is going to tell you to guess the number between 1 and 10. And if I say, for example, let's say 7, it's going to say the number is lower than that. So let's put in a 3, why not? Or a 4. And I got this on the second attempt. We're going to build an application like this. We can close it and run it again. I never get tired of this application here. Let's put in an 8. Number is lower than that. We can put it in 3. The number is higher than that. Let's put in a 4. And I got it. The number was a 4. So this is an application we will get to build. Once we have this console application running, we will do a graphical user interface version of it. And this is really cool. You will see how to turn a console application into a graphical user interface application, and that's built into the course here. Let's run this and see what we get. We are using Qt Creator here. So we can close the application output pane here so that it doesn't give us hints on what we can do. You see we have a piece of text on top. We have a spin box here in which we can specify the number we guessed. And to guess, we will press this guess button here. Let's do that. I am going to put in an 8, okay, and guess. It's going to tell me the number is lower than that. Here you can see the text show up in my label here. Let's say 5. Okay, number is higher than that. So let's say 6. And congratulations, it is a 6. I can start over by hitting the start over button here. And when I hit start over, it's going to go back to 1. Let's say 5 this time. Guess, number is higher than that. Let's do 7. Number is lower than that. It must be a 6. And I got it here. And I have a congratulations message. You will build an application like this. As we go forward in the course, we will learn about signals and slots, and this is a way you can get things to communicate in your Qt applications. For example, here I have a graphical user interface and I have a slider on top here. You will learn how to set up these things in Qt, and what we have set up here is for the slider to move, and as the slider moves, it's going to be sending information to the progress bar here, and we will see how to set up these things in Qt. So for example, you see I am moving the slider and the progress bar below, which is green, is following, and you can set up something like this in your Qt application to give some progress information about what is happening in your application, and your users are going to be able to see these things here. We're going to do something like this. Once you have a hand on signals and slots, we will design a calorie counter application. So this is something you can use if you are working out. For example, you can say I have been working out for however many hours. You can put in your weight. You can put in the speed as you see right here. You can put in the slope of where you are working. And once you have all these pieces of information in, the application is going to automatically count how many calories you have burnt. So for example, if we change the time to 2 hours, it's going to compute automatically. We're going to see that right here. If we change the speed, we're going to see our calorie count here. We're going to design an application like this. And the point of this application is to get you to practice signals and slots. We're going to learn a lot about signals and slots. I think I can even show you the source code for this. There is no harm in that. If we go in here and go to source files, we're going to see the widget CPP file, which is going to contain the meat of this application here. You see, we are doing a bunch of connections to get things working properly in this application here. After that, we will learn about a bunch of widgets. For example, we can see the Q main window widget here, which you can use to set up a main window like we have in Qt Creator here. And this is really cool. If you look here, you see we have a file, edit, view, and build, whatever. We can set up something like this in our own application using the QMain window class, and it is going to work pretty well. You can see we can set up our own menus. We don't do that at this point, but we will get to do this. But this application can quit. For example, if we go to File and do Quit, it is going to go away. We will build something like this. We will look at QMessageBox, which is something we can use to pop up messages. So let's see this running here. Okay, we see it right here. If we click on the button here, we will pop up a message. You will build something like this in your Qt application. We will learn about push buttons, but I don't think that's really interesting. Let's look at QLine Edit here and see what we have. QLine Edit is a widget that allows you to have a place where users can type text. For example, I can say Daniel here, I can say Gakwaya, my name, and I can say Kigali, my city. And if I click on grab data, I will have the data shown here. And this is proof that we have the data and we can work with it in our Qt application. We will do something like this. And this is one of the widgets we will get to learn about. Let's look at the application that uses text edit here, because I think that's a bit interesting. And this is going to be a component that allows you to type multiple lines of text. Okay, so we can type whatever we want here. But the interesting thing is that you can do all kinds of crazy things with this widget here. For example, if we hit the copy button, we will copy the text that is in this widget. And if we go below and do paste, you see we have the data on the clipboard and we can do all kinds of crazy things with that. We can cut, so let's do cut here. You see the data is going to go away. If we paste, the data is going to come back. We can undo whatever we had done before, or we can even redo. You see, this is really working. We can put in the text programmatically. So for example, if I click plain text here, I am going to programmatically put data in this text edit component here. This is really cool. This is what I want you to see. We can put in some HTML and you see the data is formatted. You can use HTML in your QtWidgets, which is pretty cool and interesting. We can grab whatever data we have in the component here. So if we grab the text, you see we have the plain text here, and we can grab the data as the HTML and it is going to show up right here. This is something you can do. Now, once we have learned about all kinds of crazy widgets, we will do our master application. And this is going to be an application which has a main window and a bunch of menus you can interact with. For example, we have a file menu, we have edit menu, we have the help menu here. So we will build something like this. If we type the sky is blue here, for example, we can grab this and copy. This is our copying toolbar button here. Once we have this copied on the clipboard, we can paste it however we want. So you see we are pasting here. We can grab the entire thing and cut, and it is going to go away. We can paste again. We can undo. We can redo. Okay, and we can do all these actions through the menu here. And this is really cool. You will learn how to set this up. You can see that you can really build some interesting applications using the Qt framework. After that, we will have a chance to learn about dialogues, and dialogues allow you to show transient or temporary information to the user. For example, we can click on this button here and the dialog is going to pop up asking the user to give information. So let's say I am a farmer and I love Linux, and if I hit OK, my information is going to be grabbed and we can see that I can use it in my application here. We can do something like this. And this is a good example on using dialogues. We will learn about a bunch of other dialogues in Qt. For example, we have a file dialog we use to choose files on the system. And if we have our application here and say choose, you see we pop up a dialog asking the user to choose the name of the file that we want to save. We can do something like this in our Qt application. We also have font dialogues we can use to let the user choose a font. Let's make sure you can see this because it is really interesting here. Okay, we have the application here. We can tell the user, choose the font you want the text here to show in. And they might say, I want this to have a font size of 22. If they do that, you see this is going to change. We will be able to do something like this using Qt. We can choose colors using the color dialog. Let's see how this works. Okay, we have this right here, and we can click on text color button here. You see this guy is going to pop up here, and it is going to allow us to choose a color. Let's choose red here, and you see the text is going to turn red. If we change the background color to what? Let's choose green here. And you see the background is going to change. We can even change the font here and make this a little bit big. Let's choose 28, why not? And you see, we can really do all kinds of crazy things. with the Qt framework. Another thing we're going to learn about is style sheets, and these allow you to design applications whose look doesn't depend on the platform where your application is going to be running. For example, this thing here is going to look the same regardless of where it's running. If you run it on Windows, it's going to look like this. These labels and whatever are going to be yellow. You're going to have a consistent look, and you can achieve this using style sheets in your Qt application. Let's do this. We're going to put in Daniel, the choir, and I am a farmer. And if I submit, something is going to show up. It's going to ask me if I am sure. We are using a custom dialog here. And if I hit OK or cancel, we're going to see this go away. You can design applications like this. We will also learn about how you can store settings in your Qt application. For example, this is an application we're going to build. If you look here, we have a bunch of colors. Okay, we can close and run again. You're going to see the colors are going to come. And this is using the settings that we are saving in our Qt application. For example, we can change the button color for 1 here. Let's change it to yellow. Okay, it's going to change to yellow. If we close and run again, you see the yellow color is gone. It's gone because we didn't save the settings here. Let's do it again and change it to yellow. Now we are going to save the settings. They are going to be saved in whatever way Windows saves these settings. And when we run the application again, button 1 is going to be yellow, and we will be able to save our settings across application runs. You can achieve this using the QSettings class we have in Qt, and we will learn about how to do that. Let's close and open this again, and you see our yellow is here. We can do things like this. We will also learn how to manipulate files and directories in our Qt application. For example, we can put in some text here, and we can write this to a text file of our choice. Let's do something like this, and we're going to do write, and we will choose the location where we want to save the file here. Let's choose my desktop so that it is easier to look for, or my desktop is messy. Let's go to E and a sandbox and say some file.txt, okay, and we will save this thing here. Now we have written a file on our system, and we will learn how to do that in Qt. If you don't believe me, let's crack open my file system here, and I am going to go to E and sandbox, and we will have our some file here. If we crack it open, you see that we have my gibberish here. We have written a file on our system, and we will learn how to do this using Qt. We will also learn how to manipulate directories, and we will do all kinds of crazy things. After that, we will learn about the model view architecture, which is a thing Qt has to allow you to design applications in a way that the way your application looks and the data your application is manipulating are saved in 2 different classes. That's really all I can say here. We will learn about all the details as we go in the course. For example, here you see we can display trees of items, and this is something you can do if you are interested. Here we are using what we call a QTree view, and here we are using what we call a QList view, and we will learn about all these things as we progress in the course. And after that, we will design our custom model. And this is going to be pretty cool. This is going to allow you to separate the way your application looks from the way your application stores data. You can see we can do tables, we can do trees, we can do lists, we can do all kinds of crazy things. We can even have nice colors around our buttons and data. We can do all kinds of crazy things. Now, these are some of the applications we will build in the course. We will build more and more. And I am confident that by the time you are done with the course, you will be able to do all these things and even more. We are going to stop here in this lecture, and in the next one, we will set up our environment to start building Qt applications. In this lecture, we're going to install Qt and Qt Creator on our Windows system. I am using Windows 10 here, but this can work on whatever version of Windows you have. I think starting from Windows 8 all the way to Windows 10, and Windows 7 may even work. So let's do this. The first thing we're going to do is to get the Qt Online installer from the Qt website, and we're going to need the Qt account. So if you don't have one, you need to sign up and log in. And another thing you should know is that from the Qt Online installer, we're going to get 64-bit binaries for the Qt framework. Starting from Qt6, the Qt company doesn't provide binaries for 32-bit binaries of the Qt framework. So if you want 32-bit binaries, you have two options. One is to use Qt5, another is to build Qt6 yourself. We're not going to look at how to build Qt from the sources because that's a little bit involved. And if you are really interested, you can do a search on Google. You're going to find a lot of entries on how to do that. For now, in the course, we're just going to use the Qt Online installer. It's going to make our life easy. Once we have the Qt framework installed, we have two options to build our projects. We can either use CMake, which is a build system, or QMake, which is another build system from the Qt company. Now, what are the differences between these two build systems? Where CMake is the future. It is the thing that is going to be used even by the Qt company to build the Qt framework, starting from Qt6, and it is recommended. QMake is the old thing they used to build Qt, and I think until up the Qt5 version, but CMake has taken over and it is going to be used going forward. For that reason, many projects are picking up CMake and use it as the build system. And you can expect QMake to die a slow death. And if we go forward maybe 5 or 6 years, we're going to have very little projects using QMake. And I would recommend going for CMake if you are going through the course here. In this video, I am going to show you how to set up both CMake and QMake projects. But in the course, I am going to be using CMake. And if you want to use QMake, you can use it yourself. Okay, now that we know this, we're going to head over to our browser and download the Qt Online installer for Windows. Here I am in my browser. I am going to go to the Qt website. You can see right here, Qt.io, so you can browse here. Once you are here, you're going to hit the download try button. This is going to give us the page that says Get Qt. If we scroll all the way down, we're going to see a section that says Downloads for open source users. So we're going to be using the open source version of Qt in the course. If you want, you can use the commercial version, but the open source one is going to work fine for us. Click the Go Open Source button, and we're going to have a page saying Qt for open source development. They are going to say a lot of things here, but all we want is really to go all the way to the bottom until we see a button saying Download the Qt Online installer. You're going to click on this button. And we're going to get another page that says our download. They detected that we are on Windows, and we're going to go all the way down here and say download. Click on this button, and this should kick off the download process for your Qt Online installer binary. You can see it right here. We're going to say save file, and it is going to be downloaded somewhere on our system. If we go in our downloads folder, let's go there. Downloads, and we're going to go in binaries here. So we have our Qt Online installer downloaded here. If you double click on it, we're going to start the install process. And the first thing you are asked is for a Qt account. If you don't have a Qt account, you can sign up by clicking on signing up here. And once you have your credentials, you can put in your email and your password, and you're going to be able to use the Qt framework, and you're going to hit next. You're going to go through a series of processes to download things and set you up. And one thing you're going to see is a window that lets you choose how you want to install Qt on your system. You're going to have a bunch of options. One is going to say install for Qt Android, I think. Another is going to say to get Qt for desktop. Don't choose either of those options. What I want you to choose is the one that says custom installation, and that's going to give you an option to choose what you want installed as part of your Qt installation. I am really sorry I can't show you that because I already have Qt installed on my system. So the best I can do is describe that and make sure you choose the custom installation option. Then you're going to be taken to a window that lets you choose what you want installed in your Qt installation. So you should get a window that says something like this. On the left, we're going to have a bunch of things we can install. And on the right, we have a bunch of checkboxes we can check to choose what we want displayed here. So for example, if we don't want to see the preview stuff, you can uncheck this and filter again by clicking the filter button. So the installer or the Qt maintenance tool is going to do its thing, and we're going to be given things we can install. I want you to select Qt here, and down you're going to see a bunch of Qt versions. I said before that for a Qt6 we don't have 32-bit binaries, but if you really need to support 32-bit versions of operating systems, for example, you can come to Qt5 here. The latest version is Qt5 15.2. If you expand this, you're going to see that we have 32-bit and 64-bit versions for all these things here. But this course is about Qt6, so we're going to expand Qt6. The latest version we have here is 6.2.3. That's what we're going to use. And you see that we have MSVC and MinGW here. I want you to choose these two and install them because you're going to have the option to build with either of these compilers, but if you want, you can select the MinGW one because that's what we're going to be using. But I have MSVC and MinGW selected here because I use all of them in my Qt projects. So don't worry about the things we have to the bottom here. You don't really need them. I have them because I use them for a few of my projects. In this course, we're going to be learning Qt6, and all you really need is MSVC and MinGW here, and whatever version you have at the time when you are watching this video here. Once you have your things selected, you're going to click on this button, whatever it says, install or next, whatever. So that's going to kick off the process to install Qt. Another thing I should say is that I installed my Qt in the Qt directory. So this is going to be the default if I remember correctly. This is going to be where my Qt installation files are going to go. So hit next and wait for the Qt installation to go through. And I should warn you because this is going to take some time depending on the speed of your computer or the speed of your network connection. So have some patience here, wait for this to finish, and you're going to get a window that says that the installation was completed. Once you do that, you're going to close out of your installation and you're going to browse to the location where you installed your Qt files. In my case, it is C. You see my C drive here. We're going to go to Qt. And we're going to go down to Tools, and we're going to go to Qt Creator. If we go in the bin directory and scroll all the way down, we're going to see a file saying Qt Creator here. If you want, you can double click on this, and this is going to start up Qt Creator. But an easier way to start Qt Creator is to come to your Start menu in Windows. I am on Windows 10 here, and search for Qt Creator. We're going to have a menu here saying Qt Creator, whatever version you have installed. Mine is 6.02 at this moment. And if you start it, you're going to start Qt Creator. Let's click on this and start Qt Creator. And Qt Creator is going to come up here. If you want, you can click on any of these menus and see what is available. And now that we have Qt Creator installed, we're going to need to try this out. We're going to create a CMake project and a QMake project to really show you these things. Okay, the first thing I am going to do is to create a CMake project. To do that, you come to File, New File, or Project. We're going to get a window here, and we're going to choose Application Qt on the left and choose QtWidgets application to the right here. We're going to choose, and we're going to give this a name. We're going to say Qt Test CMake, because this is a CMake project using Qt, and we're going to put it somewhere on our drive. Mine is going to be in the sandbox folder I have here, and we're going to hit next. We're going to choose CMake as our build system because it is the new thing. This is really the future, so we're going to use this right here. Let's hit next. We're going to choose QWidget here and hit next again and hit next. We're going to choose MinGW because this is my favorite compiler to use here, but you can use MSVC because we have it installed. We saw how we could install it from the Qt online installer. We're going to hit next again. We should get a summary of what is going to be generated as part of the project here. We have a CMake list.txt file, which is really what CMake uses to put our projects together and build it. And we're going to have a bunch of C++ files, main CPP, widget CPP, and a UI file here. The UI extension here says that this is a form file in Qt Creator, And the form file is really a form on which you can drag and drop stuff. We're going to see how this works in a minute. For now, I want you to click Finish. And our project is going to be set up here. You see the spinning wheel on the left. We're going to wait for this to finish. And we have our project here. You see on top we have a CMake list.txt file. This is what is going to put our project together. You see it is bundling everything we have in the project here together. And it's going to be used by CMake to build this project and turn it into a binary that we can run on Windows here. And this is really cool. We don't really have to worry too much about this. What I want you to do now is to hit the hammer button on the left and click on the compile output here to see the process of our project being built here. We're going to wait for it to finish. You see it took 9 seconds. It was pretty fast. Once we have this built, we can click on the green button here, and this is going to run our project. This is our very first window built with the Qt framework. Now, this is not fun or interesting. What we can do is go to the UI file here. We double click on it, and we're going to get a form like this. And we can use this to drag and drop stuff. On the left, we have a bunch of components we can drag and drop. So for example, we can take a button and put that here. We can do that again, click on Q push button and drag another one here. We're going to say 1. We're going to double click and have a window we can use to edit stuff. We're going to say 1. And we're going to do the same again for the second button. We're going to say 2. And what I want you to do is to click somewhere in the empty gray space here and go all the way to the top where it says layout vertically. Click on this thing and resize your button. And if you run again, we're going to wait for this to build again. Again, you're going to see that it's compiling in compile output here. Let's wait for this to finish. It is done, and you see it is running here, and our window now has 2 buttons we can click on, and this is really cool. And this is really the end of the process of how you set up a CMake project in Qt Creator. I promised to show you how to do the same using QMake if you happen to be preferring it to build your Qt projects. So let's close everything here, and we're going to create a new project. So let's do File, New File or Project. We're going to say Application QtWidgets Application. We're going to choose, we're going to say Qt Test QMake, because this is what we really want to do. And again, we're going to put this somewhere on our drive. I am going to choose my sandbox folder, and I'm going to hit Next. We're going to be using QMake as the build system here. So let's make sure we select that. We're going to use a widget-based class. Make sure you use that here. Hit Next, Next again, and we're going to choose MinGW as our thing. We're going to hit Next, and we should see a summary of what we have here. You see we have a QMake based project. And how do I know it's a QMake project? Because of the PRO file here. These are the files QMake is going to be looking for to build your project. And if you are wondering where CMake or QMake are coming from, they came as part of our Qt installation. They are available and we can use them right away. We're going to hit Finish, and Qt Creator is going to set up our new project. You see Qt Test QMake here. We're going to wait for it to be set up. And if we open the PRO file, you're going to see it's really doing the same thing that CMake was doing, but it is just a different tool to do the same thing, if I can say it like that. You see we have the same thing really. We have a widget header file, we have a main CPP file, we have a widget CPP file, and we have a UI file. For now, we're going to try and build this. We're going to hit the hammer button, and we're going to look at the compiler output. Let's make sure we expand this a little bit. And it is going to be building our project. You see a lot of things are happening here. Let's wait for this to finish. And you see the build is good. This took 24 seconds, which is really a lot of time, but no worries. We're going to hit the green button to start this, and we should see a window pop up on our system. And this is using QMake. Now, that's not fun, as we saw with our other CMake project. We can double click on the UI form and really do the same thing we did before. So we're going to grab one button, we're going to do another button. We're going to double click on the first one to be able to edit the text. We're going to say 1, and we're going to go to the second one and say 2, and we're going to click on an empty space somewhere on our form here. We can resize this because it's too big. Then after we click on an empty space, we're going to have these selectors here. We're going to go all the way to the top and select the button that says layout vertically. We're going to learn all about layouts. Don't worry, I just want you to have something fun to look at right now. We're going to click on that button, and a layout is going to be applied to our form here. We can resize it however we want, and we're going to click on the green button to run. Our project is going to be built again using our MinGW compiler. If we select compile output here, we're going to see the process of building this thing. We can wait for it to finish. Once the build is done, the binary is going to be run, and we're going to see a window pop up on the screen here. Okay, this is done. You see our application here, and this is really all we had to do in this lecture here. Again, the goal was to set up Qt and Qt Creator on Windows. We saw that we had to go through the Qt Online installer. You set up your account. You got a hold of 64-bit binaries for a Qt, and you are ready to start using it. We saw how you could create a project either using CMake and QMake, and now you are really ready to start learning about all the kinds of crazy things you can do with Qt, and we're going to start and do that in the next lecture. So go ahead and finish up here and meet me there. In this lecture, we're going to see how you can install Qt and Qt Creator on Linux. We're going to be using Ubuntu Linux, and that's going to be our distribution here. And the first thing we're going to do is install the dependencies that are needed for Qt and Qt Creator to work properly on our Ubuntu system. Another thing I want to say is that we will need a Qt account to be able to install Qt. What we're going to be downloading is a Qt Online installer. We're going to log in, and they are going to present 64-bit binaries for the Qt framework for us to download. Please note that from Qt6 going forward, we don't have access to 32-bit binaries. If you need 32-bit binaries, you can either use Qt5 or build Qt6 yourself, and that's a topic out of scope for the beginning course that we are doing here. Another thing you need to know is that there are two ways to really build your Qt project. You can either use CMake or QMake. There is really another one, but it's not very used. So we're going to talk about CMake and QMake in the course here. CMake is the future. It's the new thing that is going to be using going forward to build Qt projects. The Qt framework itself is built using CMake, starting from Qt6, and it is the recommended build system to use to build your Qt projects. Now, you're going to also see QMake mentioned somewhere, and it is what was used to build Qt projects from Qt5 going backwards, but it is no longer supported. I think the Qt company is no longer going to be adding features to the QMake build system. Qt is no longer built with QMake, and it can be used, but it will slowly die off. The Qt company doesn't say it openly, but QMake is no longer going to be actively used to build the Qt framework, and many people are going to start working away from it. But nevertheless, I am going to show you how to use both things in this video here. So let's head over to our Linux box and start installing the dependencies and installing the Qt framework. Okay, here I am on my Linux box. I am going to open my terminal window, and let's put it in the center here. And what we're going to do is really install these dependencies. What I want you to do is to run these commands in your terminal one by one. Once you are done, you're going to be having these dependencies here. So we're going to say sudo apt get install mesa common dev. I think this is the first one. I am going to put in my password. So this is going to install this on the system. It's going to tell us however memory it needs. We're going to say yes, and it's going to install. Okay, the install is done. The other one we're going to do is libgl1, which is going to be needed by Qt and Qt Creator. So let's do that. Sudo apt get install libgl1. We're going to say mesa dev, exactly as I am saying that here. This is already installed. Another one you may need is libglu1. put a U between L and 1 like this. So let's hit enter. This is also installed. Okay, we have this installed. Another one we're going to need is libxcb zinerama 0. So let's type this. I don't remember these things. I am checking my notes. So let's do sudo apt get install libxcb dash zinerama. I don't know what this library does, but it is needed by Qt. And we're going to put a 0 here. A 0, not an O. I think this is the name. Let's see. It should say that it is already installed. And if you don't have one of these dependencies, you're going to have a bunch of errors. That's why I tried to make sure we have the dependencies before we attempt to install Qt here. And one thing you should know is that I already have Qt and Qt Creator installed. So what I am just doing here is giving you the steps required to get to the point where you have Qt installed. So let's crack open our browser. We are going to go to the Qt website, and we can say Qt.io for that. And this is a bit slow because I am doing this on the virtual machine, if you were wondering. Okay, we are at the Qt website. I want you to click on download try here. Okay, once we are here, let's scroll down a little bit, and we're going to find a section that says downloads for open source users. We're going to click on go open source here because we want to use the open source version of Qt for the course here. But you can use commercial licenses if you want that. And they are going to tell you a bunch of things. If you want, you can read on this, but what we really want is to go down and get started using Qt. So we're going to download the binaries here. Click on the download the Qt online installer button here, and this is going to download this thing on your system. They are probably going to give us another window. This is the Qt company website. So they're going to tell us our download. They detected that we are on Linux, and we're going to download an installer for 64-bit, which is our system here. So if you hit download, your browser should kick off a download process to download this thing on your local file system. Let's wait for this. We should see a window pop up in a minute, and it is right here. If we say save file, it's going to start downloading this thing on our system, and we are going to wait for this to finish. If you click here, you can see that the download was completed. So we can go on our file system here and go in the download folder. I think that's where it's going to go. You see, I have two versions of this because I already had it downloaded, but you can definitely use one of these. Either is going to do. So I think I can take out what we just downloaded here because they are the same thing. Okay, so once you have this downloaded, you can right click, go to properties, and I want you to give this a permission to run because this is a running program on your Linux system here. So you need to check the box that says allow executing file as a program here. Once you have this, I think you can double click on this on Linux and it's going to run. Let's wait for this to pop up. You see a window is up. And if you don't have a Qt account, you can create a Qt account and you can start installing a Qt here. And once you hit a section that tells you to either install for Qt desktop or for Android, I want you to select custom because you're going to be selecting the things you want to be installed yourself. I think that's the best way to go. So set up your Qt account and hit next until you see an option to choose what you want to install. Choose the custom installation then, and then hit next. Okay, you are going to be given a window like this, which lets you select the things you want installed as part of your Qt framework. On the left here, we have the things we can install. On the right, we have the checkboxes that allow us to select the things we want installed. For example, if we don't want to see the preview stuff here, we can uncheck the preview checkbox and hit filter again. And it is going to give us the information that we want. Okay, you see we have a new window here and you can select Qt. I want you to do that. And you're going to see a bunch of Qt versions here. For example, if you want to install Qt 5, you can choose one of these versions. The latest one happens to be Qt 5.15.2, but we are learning about Qt 6 in the course here, so we're going to look for the latest version we can find. At this time, it happens to be Qt623. So let's expand on this. And we're going to choose Desktop GCC. I don't want you to choose any of these technical previews because they are in the process of being built. All you need to do is really check the Desktop GCC 64-bit thing here. And if you want, you can install all these things. For example, sometimes I'd like to choose the sources thing because I like to look at the source code for Qt. You learn a lot of things that way. But for now, all you need really is to choose desktop here and hit next. And this is going to install Qt on your system. One thing I should make clear is the location where you install Qt. In my case, I installed it in my home directory, but you can really put it anywhere you want. For example, if I go in my home directory and choose Qt, you're going to find all my Qt files here. You see it is Qt623. And another thing you should notice is the maintenance tool here you can use to add or remove stuff from your Qt installation. But for now, just hit next and install Qt, and Qt is going to be installed on your system. Now, I am going to assume that you have Qt installed on your system, so I am going to close out of this. Okay, I am going to quit the maintenance tool. And once we have Qt installed, you can go to your start menu, whatever it is on whatever Linux distribution you are using, and you can search for Qt. Let's say Qt Creator, and we're going to have a bunch of things. So choose Qt Creator here, and it is going to start running. Let's wait for it. Okay, we have Qt Creator running on our system here. This is how it looks. We have welcome, we have edit, and we're going to be learning about all these things here. Don't worry. What we want to really do is to create a Qt project and see if it actually runs on our Linux box here. So let's do that. We're going to say File, New File or Project, and we're going to choose Application Qt, and on the right, we're going to choose a QtWidgets application. So let's choose this. And I am going to put this in my home directory. Now you can choose to put this wherever you want. I am going to say Qt test CMake because we're going to be using CMake for this project here. Let's hit next. And we have an important choice to make here. And what we want to choose here is the build system that Qt Creator is going to use to put together our project and generate a binary when we want to build an application to run. We have a bunch of options. We can use QMake, we can use CMake or QBS. QBS is an old build system and it's really not used a lot. So I'm not going to talk about this anymore here. You're going to see CMake and QMake mentioned a lot in your Qt development career. QMake is an old build system, as I said in the slides, and it's no longer going to be developed by the Qt company, and that's really code name for it is going to slowly die off. What is really picking off in the Qt community is CMake, and it is what I recommend. I am going to show you how to use both in this lecture here, but at this moment we are creating a CMake project. So let's select this. We're going to hit next, and I want you to choose QWidget here and leave the rest as you see right here. We're going to hit next. Just hit next. We're going to choose GCC 64-bit. This is going to do. Let's hit next and finish. And this is going to create a project for us here. And again, if you have any problem in these steps, please make sure that you installed the dependencies we installed at the start of this lecture here. So this is our Qt Creator IDE generating our project. You see the spinning wheel here. It's taking a lot of time because this is a virtual machine. It's going to run a little bit slow. So it is here. We can double click on the CMake lists.txt file. And this is going to be what is used by CMake to glue together our project and build it to give us a binary that we can run. So you see here, for example, we are specifying what makes up our project here. We have the main CPP file, we have a widget CPP file, and we have a bunch of files here. What we really want to do is to build the project, and to build it, you hit the hammer button here. And once you do that and crack open the compile output tab here, you're going to see what is being done to build your project. You see CMake is really at work here, putting our project together. We're going to wait for it to finish whatever it is it's doing. And by the way, if you want to learn about CMake, I have a bunch of videos on CMake on my YouTube channel, so you can check them out if you are rusty on CMake, or if you really want to know what is going on under the hood when you build your Qt project using CMake. Okay, the build is successful, so all we can do now is hit the green button here to run our widget application. Let's wait for it to pop up. It should pop up any minute, and you see our widget here. Now, this is an empty widget. It's not interesting, but we can try something to make this a little bit fun. So let's go to Widget UI. We're going to double click on this Widget UI thing here. We're going to be given a form like this. You can resize it to really give it the size you want. What I want you to do right now is click on push button here on the left and drag on this form. We can put 2 just to make this a little more fun. And you can double click on one button, say 1, type with your keyboard. And we're going to do push button and say 2. And what I want you to do is to click on the form and hit layout vertically on the top here. You see the pop-up. And now you can resize these things, for example, and you can hit the green run button here on the left again. It's going to tell us to save whatever we have changed. We're going to say save all. And we're going to wait for this to come up. We should have a window looking like this, but that's going to be our application running, and that's going to be really cool. This is how easy it is to create a graphical user interface application with the Qt framework using Qt Creator, as we are doing here. Okay, you see the application here, and this is really cool. So this is the end of our process of creating a QtWidgets application within Qt Creator using the CMake build system. Now, I promised to show you how to also create a project using QMake, because that's something you might want to do. QMake is still used a lot out there. So we're going to collapse the test CMake project here, and we're going to create a new one. So this is, we're going to say application QtWidgets application. We're going to name this Qt test QMake. How convenient. We're going to put it somewhere on our host system. And now we're going to choose QMake as the build system here. Hit next. The rest is really going to be what we have seen with CMake. Let's do next. We're going to choose the kit or the compiler and the tools we want to use to build this project. And before I hit finish, you can see a summary of the things that the Qt Creator is going to generate for you. And you can see Qt test QMake.pro here. And this is a file QMake uses to know how to put together your project. But you don't really need to worry about that too much. Hit finish. A project is going to be generated for you. And you see we have our project here. If you want, you can click on the PRO file and see what is inside. You can really see that it is putting together what makes up our project. You see main CPP, widget CPP, the header file, the UI file. It is really the same thing that CMake is doing, but these are just 2 tools to do the same thing, and you can use whatever you feel comfortable with. But CMake is really popular. It is what the Qt company has chosen to use to build the Qt framework, and you can expect many more projects to use CMake. So CMake is a really good thing to be familiar with if you want to be serious with Qt. So let's run this. We're going to build, and we can look at our compile output thing here. We're going to see our project being built, just like we did with CMake. Okay, the build is good. You can see the process user make exited normally. Now you can run this. We're going to hit the green button to run, and we can see our widget pop up here on top. If we want, we can put in a bunch of buttons to make this a little more interesting. We can crack open widget UI, the form here. You see, same thing really we had with CMake, but we are using another build system to set up our project here. Let's do the same thing we did. We're going to say 1, and we're going to do 2, and we can click on the form and say layout vertically, and we're going to resize this thing a little bit, and we hit the green button on the left here bottom to run, save all, and this is going to run. Let's wait for it. And here we have our widget application using QMake to set up our project inside Qt Creator. This is really all I had to share in this lecture, showing you how to set up Qt and Qt Creator on your Linux system so that you are ready to do everything we are going to do in the course here. I apologize, the video turned out to be really long, but I wanted you to see everything I can show you to really be ready to use Qt Creator to build your projects. Again, if you had any problem, please make sure that you install the dependencies that we installed at the start of this video. We are going to stop here in this lecture, and I will see you in the next one.